Take me out to left field. Give me a shot of Fireball. Give me some high fives from Mark Peña and a hug from Jeff Cross as we stand on top of the tables. Hearing the horns, that's a blast. For it's 1, 2, 3 shots from the cannon with the ladies of left field.
Hey, y'all. It's game time with the ladies of left field. Jordan here with Kasey and Katie, as always.
Hey, y'all.
And we have a super exciting football preview for you. But first off, as we always do, let's hit our hot girl headlines. And Kasey, take it away. What a big week.
I will take it away with our guy, Scotty Scheffler, winning yet again. And he did it in
style.
Style. He on 17, he had a 1-stroke lead. You know, everything was getting tense. Him and Robert McIntyre both drove the green. It was par 3, so it was like, okay, you know, just make sure you make par and get out of here and blah blah blah. And next thing you know, Scotty's chipping in from way far away, and it just starts rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling. And then when it went in, I mean, I got chills. I was just like, oh my gosh, that just happened. So it was amazing. Like my family's text thread, who all like love golf, it was immediately, you know, going crazy. Scotty, you know. So anyway, that was great for him. And now he's heading into the Tour Championship, which is the final tournament of the golf calendar year type thing, and the FedEx playoffs. And obviously he's the favorite to win. But it is all top 30 players, and they've scrapped that like staggered point thing. So everybody's starting the tournament like any other tournament, just even par. But if he wins this one, he would be the first one to win back-to-back since the inception of this whole playoff system. So that's a pretty cool thing for him. Obviously. And you know, he's just dominating. 18 wins in the past, in his career, but that's all been pretty much in like the past 4 years. But the past 2 years has just been straight up domination. And so anyway, everybody's pretty excited about that. And then a little tidbit, a guy named Mason Howell, a college senior in the Georgia area, he won the U.S. Amateur. And one of my college friends is really good friends with his family. So she started texting us over the weekend, like, please pray for him. Please, you know, he's like doing all this. So it was just so funny that, and then come Sunday evening, you know, I'm more focused on the PGA tournament, but she starts texting that he won. And he became the 3rd youngest to ever win it. And he was younger than Tiger was when he won it. So it's like he kind of won up Tiger Woods. So I read an article where he's kind of like saying it's pretty cool to have a record over Tiger. He goes, I don't know that I'll ever have one of those again. So there is your golf update.
That's awesome, Case. I know. I probably watched that like chip in by Scotty like a ton, because I was like, what the hell did he do? I mean, like, you saw him chip that ball and just kept running on the green, and that was just awesome. So yeah, it was so sweet. And of course his wife and his new baby were there. So anyway, so sweet. Yay, Scotty. All right, I'm back for Major League Baseball. You know, it keeps going. You guys remember the playoffs aren't until the end of September. So here we are. And folks are still kind of like leading as they were before. So playoff picture right now, Brewers and Dodgers are currently at the top of the MLB. There's, you know, super on top, really. So that they're looking really good. The Brewers did finally lose a game. It was on Sunday. Finally. So, you know, if you're a Cubs fan, you're happy to hear that. And if the playoffs started today or right around today, and then the Brewers and the Tigers would be the top seeds in their leagues. So we'll see what happens. It gets super interesting right now. Trades are kind of starting to happen. People are looking at, you know, who's going to be available, which teams are making people available. So it really gets really interesting as far as, looking at that to people kind of get people just for the playoffs. So, also kind of strange. Victor Robles, how do you say that? Robles,
I think.
Yes, Robles, maybe that. That's a go. So with the Seattle Mariners, received a 10-game suspension for throwing a bat at a pitcher during a rehab assignment game. So, you know, I think he was super frustrated. But I mean, throwing a bat at a pitcher is like intense. So anyways, he has apologized, but always a little bat throwing action can get you plenty of games not played. So anyways, keep watching.
And do that.
Yeah, it'll do that.
So, but yeah, it'll get interesting. MLB gets super interesting right now as we go into end of August into September. All right, Jordan, tell us all about the football. We're like 10, 11 days away. Here we go.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was looking today. We're a week away from Texas's first game, but football starts on Saturday. But like,
that's right.
Iowa State and Kansas State are in Ireland. Well, will be in Ireland. Saturday, 11 a.m. Central Time, to kick off the season. It's that's tomorrow. They're starting. It's crazy to me. But yeah, so there will be games Saturday, and then Texas's first game is next Saturday, and that's kind of when we say the season really kicks off once Texas starts. So I'm excited, but again, blows my mind that we're already here because I feel like we just wrapped up like our College World Series talks and everything, and now suddenly it's football time.
I know.
Yeah,
pretty fun. Can't wait.
That's the benefit of doing well and your team going far and keeps your sport going a lot longer. So.
And speaking of college football, we are super pumped to have Joe Cook with us today to give us the best Texas football preview you could ask for. So Joe, welcome in. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
I'm glad, Jordan, Katie, Kasey. I appreciate it a lot. I know I've met 2-3 of y'all in person. Kasey, I haven't met you yet, but yep. I know where y'all hang out, so y'all aren't hard to find. I appreciate it. Y'all are some of my favorite people. Y'all hang out with my favorite people, and glad to be helping y'all out and being here with y'all.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
We're happy to have you.
Joe, obviously, kind of teased. He's out in left field a lot. Started his writing career covering Texas baseball. He's now the managing editor at Inside Texas. But I feel like I see Joe more in left field than anywhere else ever since I, stopped working at Texas. But to start off, you've been out at practice. Just what is the vibe out there?
And I mentioned this kind of on our message board this morning about this time every year, I have a concern spike where I'm just like thinking like, well, it's going to happen, 11-1 and doing this, doing that. And then about at this point, 10 or so days away from the season, I start to think like, well, what if this happens? And what if this happens? And what if this happens? And I haven't had that yet.
Oh,
and I don't know if that means that everything's perfect. I don't think there's such thing as a perfect team anymore in college football. But what I do think it means is that everything is in such good shape that a dent in each position or at individual positions isn't going to derail anything. And that's a little bit different maybe at quarterback or offensive tackle, or, if one of the headliner players like Colin Simmons, Anthony Hill, Michael Taft, like if something happens to them and, obviously things change and that hasn't happened yet, to know that at this point in the year, Texas has pretty much everybody that it needs for a big time run, and all those players from top 4 recruiting classes playing pretty well hasn't had this jump and like, but what if this goes wrong? And what if this goes wrong? And even if I try to stay pretty measured on like, okay, how do the running backs look or how do the wide receivers look? I can fall back on, well, they've been coming from top 5 recruiting classes. And so that's a big difference for me. Cause like like you mentioned, I've been doing this for about a decade, and in the lead up to some of like the Herman and early Sark teams, it'd just be like, well, if this doesn't seem that good, and then we would see it play out. But I don't have that like debilitating, keep me up at night fear ahead of this team. And that has me feeling like, well, darn, everything's going to be pretty good then until it's not. But I feel pretty good about everything. And I like not having a fear spike ahead of a season.
I love that. I feel like I always do that as well. I'm kind of an optimist until we get close, and I turn into a pessimist.
Sark's any different this year?
He seems confident. I think he knows what he's done and what he's put on the roster. But I also don't think that he wants to let his team know that he's changed. If y'all saw that ESPN thing about like with Reese Davis, with him walking around campus, that's real. Like I was walking to my car and I'm like, there you are. You actually do this. This is actually real for you. Like, I don't think he wants to let people know that he's changed. And so I think while there is an internal excitement, they know how close they were in 2023. They know how close they were in 2024. And they feel like we can do pretty similar on the process. Now we have more talent. Now we can get further. Let's go and do it. I don't think they feel like there's any need to have some drastic change. And I don't think Sark wants to change. Saban became famous for doing the whole process. And I think you would fear that the players just became robots. But you would also see, and this was an undercovered part of Saban, he liked having fun. Like he would take players on the lake. He would talk a little mess. And I think Sark, at least at Texas, can or maybe not illustrate, but emote that a little bit better just because their personalities are different. And I think at Texas also, we can, and in the media, kind of get that out there a little bit more to where, no, he hasn't changed, but we can see like he's still enjoying it, but being very, very process driven, because he mentioned, I'm obsessed with winning a championship. I want to do that. That's his goal. As long as he's in college football, he wants to win a college football national championship. I don't think there's been much change. I think he's just realized that there's not much to change just because they've been that close, 12 yards, 7 yards for the past 2 years.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure that you've seen it since you've been out of practice, but I was telling them the past couple of weeks, I've been watching a lot of those interviews on our website when the little LHN app, they'll have the availability. And then several of the players talking about that they're feeding off of his energy, though, off of his energy out of practice, that his just like he's upbeat and just, let's go. And then they're all just like, okay, and they're out there in this, and it's, it's hot. Luckily, we haven't had the horrible 100 degrees, but the humidity has been quite high around here lately. So it's like, it feels miserable outside to me. So I know they're having to work hard. It's got to be awful as far as that goes, but they still seem like they're all just like so into it. I mean, just so into it.
I'm not going to lie and not think that a $10 million salary doesn't help with that. Yeah. But at the same time, like that just seems like his personality. He's always kind of been the young go-getter coach, no matter what age he's been. He just seems like the type of coach that is ready to be driven and ready to be involved in everything, but not removed and at like a 50,000 foot level behind his players, above his players, and just kind of as this authority figure that they see every now and then. And I know that's not easy for him. I think, those health issues that he has had in the past, all the coronary and cardiac stuff, like those have been well documented. It's not easy to do that. He's got a newborn at home too. So I know there's some nights where he's not sleeping all the way through the night. And yet he understands, you got to get up in the morning, you got to go do it. And you have to be that energy for other people. And to his credit, he's brought others with him, whether that's coaches, whether that's players. And for the most part, it's players, and players do a lot of that. But you're paid $10 million for a reason. Like you are the person looked to set the tone and bring the culture to everybody and be that energy. And I think he's done that very well. And I think that, when you look at the guy on the sideline, covering his mouth with a play sheet and, crouching down and calling plays, you may not think that he's the energy guy, but he's got to be the energy guy every now and then, Monday through Friday, Sunday through Friday. And then it's on the players to get the rest of the stuff. And they do a great job of that, because then he's got to be the head coach. He's got to do the head coach things on Saturday. We all know that he does a great job of that. But I think he does a great job on Sunday through Friday. And he even marched into a press conference last week and goes, I was fired up about today's practice. Like,
right.
And I know that, they may want to be in their bubble and they may want to say, like, we don't pay attention to the media and stuff like that. some form or fashion, it gets back to them. And then so if they know if their head coach went out to the media and said, I was fired up from this practice, they're gonna be like, okay, we did something right. And I think that's strategic, but I think he also just knows where to bring the energy, where to let other people bring the energy. And that's something he's a very good coach. That's where he's a very good coach.
Yep, I agree.
I mean, and we've been around long enough. We've seen lots of coaches that get paid a lot of money that don't give us the results that we want as Texas fans. So we like Sark for bringing the energy and also bringing us results so far. And I think he will make it happen, and he will like reach his goals to bring us a national championship. And we're ready for it again. I also, speaking of energy, we've talked about it that we personally love Dwayne Aquina coming back. Are you seeing like that energy come through? I'm sure in the practice field and everywhere else. It's so fun.
So if y'all saw that 3rd and Longhorn clip where it's Jalen Gilbo doing his Dwayne Aquina impersonation, I lost it at that. I thought that was one of the funniest things ever. But that just really shows what he's about. Like, you can find there are guys in the building like Michael Huff. There are other legends like Aaron Ross, and there are other great Texas defensive backs like Quandre Diggs. And those guys, to their great credit, are still involved with the program. And they can probably, send a direct message to Jalen Gilbo and be like, I know what you're going through. I remember when Coach Aquina was talking to me, and Coach Aquina was telling him, like Jalen Gilbo did, we don't do that. That's not what we do. And I think that Coach Aquina just understands what success looks like. Mm-hmm. And even at 68 years old, and you're always going to lose a step when you're at that stage in your career. It's just a fact of life. But he still brings the energy that, like we were talking about, a coach like Sark wants. And he also has Mark Orfe there. He also has Pete Kwiatkowski there. He also has Kenoto Hudson, who coaches the Nichols position. Those are all, PK's, I think, in his late 50s, but Orfe and Hudson are younger coaches. Like, there is equal energy in the building. And one of the underrated factors is that because of some of the new recruiting rules, you had your 10 coaches, and those 10 were the ones that went on the road and recruited. Dwayne Aquina still recruits. He's still talking to high school prospects, but he's not the one that has to go to, North Shore High School, or he doesn't have to go to, Euless Trinity or anywhere like that. Like, he can do his job and dedicate a lot of energy to his job without having to mess with the high school stuff. And he's got to do some of it, but he doesn't have to do all of it. And I think even at this stage in his career, that's a positive. And again, he knows what he's doing. Arizona, Texas, Stanford, back at Texas. Like, this is someone who has put fantastic defensive backs into the league. He's put fantastic defensive backs into the league from a variety of systems with a variety of defensive coordinators. And there's also just the fact that you get the connection with the Huffs, the Diggs, the Rosses, everybody who can come to these players now, even to someone who's an All-American like Taft, even to someone who, was a freshman top 50 prospect like Kobe Black, and be like, listen to that man. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah. Yeah. He may be old, but he's still got it. He does what he's doing. Well, we love talking about coaches because, I don't know if you know Kasey's history with our head coaches. She was the head admin assistant, executive assistant for Coach Brown all time. Like, they're still BFFs. And then she stuck it out through Strong and Herman. And then right before Sark, she retired. And then she also worked for Coach Gus and Augie before she did football. So we got we love talking coaches. It's fun for us. But to switch to players,
I'm sorry. I have, if you scroll back on my phone, and I'm doing this real quick, like, here are the, if you can barely see this, like, that is March 13th, 2015 of Augie and Ben Johnson and Brooks Marlowe. And then, like, I still have, like, Augie recordings in here. I remember, like, listening to all of them for very different things and some different written pieces. But, like, I I checked this every month on my phone to make sure Apple hadn't taken it away because of just all the different things. And I think we could all talk for 3.5 hours about Augie. But like that's a wealth of knowledge that you've seen between just on the baseball side of things between Gus and Augie. And then, I know whatever people may think of, Herman and Strong, but they didn't get here for no reason. Like they're still were accomplished in their field to get there. And I know they had their successes, they had their drawbacks, but they still knew what they were doing. And I mean, there's a lot from everybody in that phone to where there's a lot of wisdom, but the ones from like 2015, 2016 with Augie, when he won the, the most games of all time, passed up. I can't remember who he passed up. I know he wasn't happy that Mike Martin passed him. But I remember a few different things where he was saying like, this isn't about me. And those are pearls of wisdom that I listen to every now and then because they apply to all sports.
Yeah. Augie could do some talking. That's for sure.
It is still one of all my good favorite rants always are from Augie. It's like, I think Mark keeps them on his phone as well and just like likes to play him to, I don't know, hype himself up for different reasons. It's funny.
Yeah, he has the rants, and then he has that one about, baseball is a metaphor of life. And
so yeah, I mean, Augie like to have all the
very philosophical. Very philosophical.
Yeah. Well, okay, let's move to players though, Joe. So like, who is really like standing out? I mean, to you, as we're coming into the season.
You got to start with Arch. Arch is doing everything that he needs to do. I think that what you see from this offense this year starts and begins with him, and it's going to involve throwing deep, and it's going to involve him making the right decisions. Can he do that on a down-to-down basis? It's going to be a big factor this year just because of there's probably going to be a little bit more high risk with this offense. When you're throwing deep, there's enough time to look up and see where the ball is for everybody on the field, all 21 other people on the field. So he's got to put it on the money, and I think that's going to be important. He's also got to make the right decisions whenever they do RPOs. Are you running into the right amount of people, or are you pulling and passing it at the right time? Are you reading things before the snap? Are you counting numbers on the outside and inside and going to the right spot for a 8-yard gain, or are you thrown to the wrong spot for a 1-yard loss? I think those are things that he understands. But it's different going against Ohio State than it is going against Mississippi State and ULM. And what I've been telling people all off season is for this to be the situation he's walking into, you couldn't ask for a better preparation as far as someone who's been in your program for 2 years. Yeah, you can import a portal quarterback and bring him in, but he's from a different offense. He's from a different system. He's from all that. This is as good as you could ask for from a player who's been in your system, who's seen a taste of it, and now just like every other player has to step up and do his job. On defense, there's been a lot of great things heard about Grayson Littleton. He was a preseason true freshman All-American over on On3 earlier on Tuesday. He's probably going to see a lot of snaps at the star at the nickel position. And I think that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be out there every single time. There's going to be a lot of matchups. They may bring Jelani McDonald down, but the fact that a true freshman from a number 1 class and one of the few true freshmen to really be kind of inserting himself into the starting lineup, for him to be already making an impact at a difficult position says a lot to me. It's a position where success is kind of defined by, can you not give up a big play? Because it's very challenging. And if he's able to do that and also just earn the coach's trust even more than he has just to be the first guy out there, that was a big one. And then one more is just CJ Baxter. Like, I remember as soon as Jonathan Brooks messed up his knee in 2023, the first game after that was at Iowa State. And Baxter I think he rushed for 100 yards. I think he had a touchdown. And he came out and talked to the media, and that was one of the trips where it's Ames. You want to get up there, you got to go to Des Moines, or you could drive up I-35 if you're really bold. But you got to get to Des Moines, drive to Ames, go to Jack Trice. You're there. And he was influential in winning that game. And he comes out and talks to the media as a true freshman. And we kind of look around and just kind of realize, like, this, he gets it. Like, this is someone who's comfortable. And as long as the football catches up, like, this guy has superstar potential. Unfortunately, he messed up his knee last year in the preseason. But when Sark said on Saturday, like, I think we can be more aggressive with CJ Baxter, that was eye-opening to me, because it's a player I thought maybe, okay, you're going to get like 8-ish carries at Ohio State. They're going to bring you along as you go through the non-conference, which is going to have some bowl teams, but you're going to have some teams you can beat. But for them to look at CJ Baxter now and think, we just had a 1,000-yard rusher in Trey Wisner. We have Christian Clark coming back. We have Jarrett Gibson coming back. And yet this is a type of player where it's like, no, we got to get him the ball. He's done everything right. That was big for me. And it sounds like, they've been the right amount of cautious with them. I always say it is football. It's a collision sport, not a contact sport. But for him to even say, like, I was looking more forward to getting tackled than I was to scoring a touchdown. I'm like, okay, you get it. You're on the right path. Like, you're going to be fine whenever you put the real pads and jerseys on. And I feel like he's going to have an impact this year. And I think he's a 1A, 1B type player with Wisner.
You've seen a lot. So, so realistically, do you think that we are worthy of, these number one rankings that we're getting from the multiple polls out there so far? I mean, I don't know that I've seen anything where we're not the number one team. Preseason.
I'm one of those people where I kind of look at it, and rankings are what they are. If you're going to have a ranking, one's got to be ahead of the other, has to be ahead of the other. I looked at like the preseason AP and coaches poll, 2 human polls, and I thought there's probably a split at about number 8. And I think that's like, from that point up, it's basically Clemson, Notre Dame, Georgia, Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, Texas. I'm forgetting one more because I only got to 7. But if you're going to pick a number one, why not pick the team that might have the best defense in the country, that has players at all 3 levels who are all-American talent, who, if you're replacing 4 offensive line starters, which is a very difficult task, you have players from top 5 recruiting classes, Trevor Gooseby, who saw action, Neto Umeozulu, who's a 4th-year player, Cole Hudson, who's basically a starter, and then Brandon Baker, who is a top 40 prospect. Like, it's best case scenario for what you're having to do. You have Parker Livingston, Ryan Wingo, DeAndre Moore, Emmett Mosley, all these players who highly ranked. And yes, they're replacing very talented players like Matthew Golan, like Isaiah Bond. You have Jack Endries replacing Gunnar Helm. And you're figuring out what to do with Juan Davis's role. Like, you are figuring out a lot on offense, but when you recruit that well, and you can look at Arch Manning and think a little bit more of the idea of Arch Manning in 2025, maybe compared to the idea of Arch Manning in 2024, who else is it going to be? Like, are you going to trust a Drew Aller team? Are you just going to trust a Kirby Smart team? And I get if you do. Are you going to trust a Oregon team that's replacing a lot on offense and defense, an Ohio State team that's the same way? Like, there seems to be more knowns, honestly, if you're looking at it, between Texas and Penn State. And I think that's why the AP had it right. And I think that's why you see in the AP poll, like, there's not a runaway 45-plus vote out of 60 team. It's kind of 20, 5, 1, something like that. It's just the way college football is. Talent can be more spread out, not only because talent can leave freely, but as Paul Wadlington on Inside Texas says, like, you are kind of at the subject of your most irrational opponent. If someone wants to pay $1 million for that receiver and your budget says, yeah, you're a $450,000 player, you're going to take the $1 million. And I don't blame you. But that's the way talent gets spread amongst college football this year. And even though Texas has a robust and strong NIL apparatus, one position can draw one big bid and change everything, whether they're from high school or from the portal. and continue to spread that talent out everywhere. But who's going to not vote Arch Manning number one? That's my thing.
Like it.
Well, that kind of brings me to also, I had to first kind of just wanted you to walk us through the depth chart, but then who outside of Arch is going to be the most impactful on the offense and on the defense if you had to pick one player?
I'm going to go Trevor Gooseby. Like, for Arch to be himself, he's got to be protected. And we saw for much of the past, basically all the past 3 years, without Kelvin Banks, this offense looks different. And Trevor Gooseby stepped in just fine against Texas A&M and even against Georgia. But Kelvin Banks is Kelvin Banks. He's probably a top one or top two offensive lineman in Texas history. So that's someone who needs to be great this year for Texas to get to where they want to go. That's who my big look, just kind of going around the depth chart, mentioned Arch. There's still a battle for backup quarterback, Matthew Caldwell, Trey Owens, those two probably over KJ Lacey. Running back's hard to pick just because the position takes on hits. You hear Sark talk so much about, making it through a full season, and there are about 4 guys that they can use. So how are they going to get those guys the carries they want? We'll see. That's what you play San Jose State, UTEP, and San Houston State for. But, I mean, that's a talented group. Tight end, Jack Endries, followed by Jordan Washington, Spencer Shannon. Washington and Shannon going to be those probably blocking guys. Both have their strengths, both have their weaknesses, but they're 2 different guys, and Texas feels like they can use both of them. Receiver, it's going to be that top 3, Wingo, Moore, Livingston. Mosley's going to try to fit in there. Khaleke Lockett's a true freshman who seems like he's going to figure a way to get some playing time. They're also looking at, like I mentioned, Emmett Mosley. Aaron Butler may try to get his way in there. And Ryan Niblett can't be ignored just because that's someone who the coaches have liked so much that they've said, like, okay, we got to get you on the field at defensive back. No, we got to get you on the field at running back. No, we got to get you on the field at receiver. Like, they're like, we got to get you on the field. So he may be more like a Keelan Robinson this upcoming season. On defense, starts and ends with Colin Simmons, then Anthony Hill, and then Michael Taft. Like, those guys are going to be your mainstays at each spot. Defensive tackle, you may see some hockey shifts. Like, you may see 3 different duos at defensive tackle make their way through at the start of the season. Opposite Colin Simmons, on the other side, probably a lot of Ethan Burke, who's here in his senior year, has drawn a lot of praise from both Simmons and from coaches. That's a position that could see some more rotation. You may see someone like Colton Vosick there, but you also may see a player like you may see Simmons flip to the other side and some other guys rotate in behind him. The linebacker spot goes Anthony Hill, but you'll alongside him, you'll see a lot of Leonga Lafau and Ty Anthony Smith. I think Ty Anthony Smith is someone who's had maybe one of the best camps of the preseason. A guy who's at 216 pounds, but he can play the position well. And that kind of applies to both him and Lafau. Like, whatever their physical limitations are, there are a few limitations up here. They know where to be. Manny Muhammad's going to be that field corner. Contract year for him. If he plays as well as he wants to play, he's probably going to be declaring for the NFL draft. Boundary corner, look at Kobe Black and Jalen Gilbo. I don't know if you'll see one guy separate themselves, but if you got 2 starters, and all right, one guy comes in when the other needs a break and you're in good shape. You'll probably see a lot of mixing and matching in the secondary, just dependent on matchups. Jelani McDonald, he can play deep safety. He can play Grayson Littleton spot. You'll see Derek Williams, who's made a big recovery for his knee. Sark praised him the other day for tackling. He'll be someone that plays a lot. Michael Taft will be a regular. Xavier Filsaime is someone who also is earning a lot of praise for matching his athletic traits with just, in front of him processing. And then maybe a little bit further down the depth chart, Wardell Mack and Warren Roberson, 2 guys who saw a lot of action on special teams last year, and two guys who are fitting in at it would be Star, that nickel position, and then one of the other corner positions.
Well, I feel like you just named about 3 teams worth of people there we can count on.
It's a lot.
Yes.
I love it.
It's one of those things where it's like, why do I know all about this when I could know about other things? I'm like, well,
was great to know.
I know what I need to know for this.
Yeah.
There you go. We love it. No, we're here for it. Okay, so I think we should tee up the Ohio State game. So let's talk about it. So yeah, you and I, before we started, both said we went to Ohio State the last time we played there. We went. I'll say the first experience I had actually was getting off the plane. Where do you fly into? We flew into. Where do you fly into, y'all?
Like, I think 20 years ago you could have probably flown into Cincinnati and hopped the Connect thing, but these days Columbus is big enough town to have its own airport and have direct flights from Austin too.
So I'm pretty sure we flew to Cincinnati. I think you're right. I remember even getting our luggage off the baggage claim. I mean, people from all around were like, "Oh, are y'all going to Columbus?" And we're like, "Yeah." I mean, we got warnings immediately. They're horrible. Watch out for your safety. It's a scary place. And we were like, "Well, we've been everywhere." I mean, at this point, that's when Mark and I were literally, I think, for I don't know, some years, went to every single home and away game. I mean, literally from probably the couple seasons before the Michigan Rose Bowl, all the way through all of that, all the way to the Alabama Rose Bowl. And then I think that loss is where we were took a little break. And I think we also were adults and had careers and decided to maybe take those seriously. So, but that was, and so that happened there. And then we get there, and immediately, we're walking down the street trying to go find some food, and people are screaming at us through their windows, horrible things too, lots of cuss words, lots of things that are really raunchy, that you don't typically hear from people. They're just trying to cross the road, and not really, talking any smack back. And yeah, we saw multiple lawn chairs through windshields of Texas plates. I think the biggest thing is we were walking in front of Fraternity Row, but we were minding our own business, not trying to cause any problems. And we actually brought a friend with us who's actually went to A&M, which is funny. She's not a Texas fan. She just came for fun. She has a white shirt on. And literally before she left, I was like, well, you got to have something. So I gave her a little, necklace of light orange beads. It wasn't Texas beads. It was just a necklace. And I mean, these guys got up in her face and got right in front of her. We're calling her all kinds of horrible names, you Texas, blah, 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 that our folks had to kind of get in there and be like, hey, we're just trying to walk down the sidewalk here. We're not trying to get in a fight, Yeah, it was wild. I mean, like I said, I've been a lot of places and I have never been just completely insulted for no other reason than being a fan of the other team. And aggressive, violently, yeah. So anyways.
I think, so I remember looking this up, and that was the 6th or 7th ever night game at Ohio Stadium.
That was a big deal too.
And they were undefeated, and they had beaten good teams, a couple good Washington teams had come in. And I don't think, and I think obviously Texas fans were super excited for that season. You win that Rose Bowl, you beat Michigan, and you're like, well, we're going up here to this spot. We got to make sure that we see this. And you don't know what type of environment you're walking into. And it was just the rowdiest environment because Ohio State had national championship expectations that year. And I'll remember this, and I'm sure I'll get a call from my mom and dad. Back that year, what would have been? I would have been 11 years old, and I had a little flip phone. And that's when I was kind of the age where I'm from Houston. We'd go to Astros games. I'd be like, I'm going to go explore. And they were like, okay, keep your phone on you.
Yeah.
And that was kind of their way of he's not going anywhere. He's got his phone, whatever. And so the horseshoe is a horseshoe. And if you're looking at it on the TV, the open end of the horseshoe is on the right. The closed end is, I don't know what direction it is, but the Texas band is on the left from the TV angle. And there were other Texas fan seats on the open end on the bottom right. That's where our seats were. And I told my parents something like, I'm going to go to the bathroom real quick. And then I go from the bathroom and I'm like, I'm going to go explore. And so I go explore. I go over all the way to the band, and I come back, and my parents are just freaking out, like, "What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing?" And now I look back on it and realize, like, oh, these were some nasty people. Like, I don't know what it was, but it was just that supercharged environment. And we kind of walk out of there thinking, like, if we're doing this wearing burnt orange, like, what happens to people wearing maize and blue?
Right.
Like, what in the heck could you just, and I do remember, I can't remember exactly where it was, but there was like maybe a hotel or a conference center. It may have been a Texas Exes thing. And you could just tell that all the Texas people were like, we got to get in here.
Rushing
like, just get in here and be fine. And I vividly remember, Texas wins, Lima Swede catches that pass. They earn the safety. They win that game. We walk out of the stadium, and somehow an open yellow cab is right there. And my dad probably just shoves me in. Get it there. And I forget where the hotel is. And, I think he was still in kind of like, okay, I got to protect my family. I don't think he like got into like number 2, just beat number 4 until like the next until we landed in Houston.
Yeah. Back in Texas. Yeah.
I don't think he was like, oh, but like that was, and I also think that it's not going to be as supercharged this time because we just saw each other. Texas people just saw Ohio State. Ohio State just saw Texas. Ohio State is literally going to be unveiling the 2024 national championship. They're going to be in a good mood. It's going to be at noon Eastern.
Thank gosh.
There's not enough time to get ratcheted up. And I know there are a lot of people who may just be out on that game. I would also bet that there's a lot of people who went to Michigan, and Michigan and Ohio State are very culturally different schools. And I don't mean to say that to demean Ohio State. I think it's just a true fact. But Michigan was as good of an experience as anybody could have asked for. Like, yeah, you saw horns down and you got some screw you, we're the champions, we're going to win. But it's like, all right, welcome to Ann Arbor. Thank you.
That's my husband went.
I don't know if that's going to be the case, but one other thing somebody told me is that Columbus is not just a college town anymore. It's a city of 1 million that has the college in it. And I think Ohio State's always been a team kind of like Texas that appeals past its region, past its locality, past its alumni base to where you get a wide range of people. But I think everything's going to be ratcheted down because they're going to be in a good mood because it's 12. You can only get so angry.
Yeah.
You're celebrating a national title. And you just saw each other. That animosity that, no, we're the real team. Yeah. That can't build up because, to their credit, they just showed that 8 months ago.
I will also say personal experience is most of the folks outside the stadium were wild and rude, and most people inside the stadium that actually have tickets to go into the Horseshoe were pretty chill. I mean, after we won, this lovely little lady right next to us who was a massive Ohio State fan, I mean, she was very worried about our safety. At some point, she was like, can you guys please turn your shirts inside out? We were like, well, that's not really going to help. They're still burnt orange on the inside. And she was like, did y'all bring extra shirts to wear? We were like, no, or a coat or something. And then she was like, okay, well, please stay in your big group. Like, nobody wander off and separate. And I really need you guys to stay in well-lit areas. Like, stay where the street lights are on. Don't walk down any alleys, and we were like, yes, ma'am, we got you. And so we had, I don't know, I mean, we had like just a big Texas bar that we all were at. And it was just, I guess, I don't know, somebody rented it out, I'm sure. And so we just hustled back there as soon as we could and then hung out there where we knew it was all friendly folks. But yeah, it was nothing. I mean, it was a once in a life, but I agree with you. I think it's going to be a lot more chill. I think the start time helps. I think like all the things you mentioned are really going to help. So we're not going. I do have a couple of friends that are going. Some of the left field crew are going. But yeah, it should be fun. So
I'll find them.
Yeah, find them. We'll tell you where they're at. All right. What else about Ohio State? So what about their team? I mean, what do you think about, like, they're saying, that Julian Sand is going to start as a quarterback? What should folks know about this Ohio State team?
They look a lot like Texas. Julian Sand, and I wrote something on Inside Texas about how basically if Arch Manning's not on this roster, Julian Sand may be a Longhorn. He really liked Texas, but understandably so. He looked at the depth chart and said, I'm not going to start ahead of that guy. So he committed to Alabama, goes to Alabama, enrolls at Alabama, and then when Nick Saban retires, he's like, okay, this is not what I signed up for, and transfers to Ohio State, waits a year behind Will Howard, wins the battle with Lincoln Kienholz. He think of Shane Buechele, but maybe at a step above, like that type of quarterback, not physically imposing, but very accurate, very talented with where he wants to put the football, good enough arm strength. Texas they wanted him, and that says a lot. Like, I think whatever the scouting report may say about Sayin, the fact that they said, here's your scholarship offer, says enough to me about how they thought about him. So good enough to be in a, Brian Hartline offense and lead it. Running back's going to be good. James Peoples, he's from San Antonio, went to Veterans Memorial. They also brought in C.J. Donaldson from West Virginia. He was that famous kind of converted tight end who they started handing the ball to, and then he turned West Virginia into a half-decent offense. So that's going to be someone that gets a lot of carries. Their O-line, kind of like Texas, are replacing some guys. They have a Rice transfer and Ethan Oniawa. He's going to be good. Kind of like Texas. Like, this is a team that has top recruiting classes all over the place. And then you got the receivers. You got that Jeremiah Smith guy. You got Carnell Tate. You got, everybody, whoever they have Jeremiah Smith. You got to pay attention to him. They also picked up Max Clare out of the transfer portal, top tight end. Texas definitely wanted him. They did well with injuries, but if they had gotten Clare, I think they would have done even better. Going to be a weapon, maybe the best tight end in the country. Looking on the defensive side, you look at the back end, you start with Caleb Downs and understand he may be the best defensive player in college football, or at least in the conversation with Hill and Simmons. It's going to figuring out who their defensive backs are going to be is a little bit different, a little bit interesting. They have some players who played against Texas. They have some talented freshmen like Devin Sanchez, who's from the Houston area. But that's going to be an area that that Ohio State not going to lack for talent. Sonny Styles back in the middle playing linebacker, super talented player, really good. They picked up a defensive end commit, Bo Atkinson from North Carolina. That's someone who I don't think is going to be as impactful as maybe some of the great Ohio State guys of years past, or maybe even I'm blanking on the guy who picked up the fumble, Jack Sawyer, but he's still going to be good. He's going to be a player that Texas has to respect. And then defensive tackle, I think letting Hero Kanu go might have been a mistake from Ohio State, but even though, they still have some good players up there. Tywone Malone, if you all remember, he had some baseball highlights. I think he was a guy at Ole Miss who was playing D tackle and then DH for the Rebels, and then he goes to Ohio State, figures out he wants to drop the H and play D tackle. He's going to be a player Texas has to watch for. They have Matt Patricia. That's going to be something they have to figure out, the Longhorns do, because they've never seen what that looks like in college. They haven't seen what he looks like in a few years. You can study, like Sark said, Lions, Patriots, Eagles tape, but you don't know what it looks like in scarlet and gray. So in the end, they're all going to be really, really talented, going to be a lot of great players, and Texas is going to have their work cut out for them, especially when they're playing on the road.
I can't wait to see it.
Awesome.
It's going to be good.
Yeah. Looking at the Texas schedule, what game are you most excited for?
Florida. I mean, here's the other thing. Ohio State, that's great. I love going to these premier out-of-conference games. Drove to Tuscaloosa in 23. I had a hell of a trip to Ann Arbor last year. Going to this one, hopefully it's less rocky. OU is always, a holiday. Just seeing it becomes like a de facto reunion, seeing everybody wants to come to Dallas and go to the Cotton Bowl and do all that. But Florida is going to be special just because it is a really good team who has lofty aspirations. And it's in a place Texas hasn't been in 80 years. That's something that you don't get to see very often. It's probably going to be a night game because there's not a lot of great competition on that weekend. And it's going to be a game that, the Gators and everybody around Gainesville are going to get up for. That one. And then I'm excited for Black Friday. It's been 15 years since the Aggies have been to Austin and have walked down Congress Avenue and all that stuff. And I think while last year, and I mean, I know anybody who's listening to this is college sports obsessed, but like some people just don't tune in on Thanksgiving. They want to watch the Cowboys. They want to watch the Lions. They want to watch the other game. But on Black Friday, you're competing with an Amazon game. Not everybody's got Amazon, and everybody's got ABC. This game's, I think, going to be either on ABC or ESPN. More people have ESPN than Amazon. And more people are going to want to see this game, especially if it's like a top 5 Texas team and a probably pretty good A&M team squaring off in Austin. So I'm excited for that one. And, we'll see what happens next, whether, heading to Atlanta or maybe playing another game in Austin. We'll see what happens, but I'm excited for Florida. I'm excited for A&M, and you can never look past the Red River Shootout.
Agree with all those. So basically, kind of wrapping up, what do you expect Texas's record to be at the end of the regular season?
I think the games where you can look at and see reasonably where could they come out with losses are Ohio State, Florida, Oklahoma, Georgia, and A&M. And that, I think if you go 3-2 in those games and you take care of business in the other games, this is a 10-2 team that I don't know if that means they make it to the playoff. I mean, if you lose to Ohio State and then lose to Georgia, okay, then you're 7-1 in the SEC and you're going back to Atlanta. Like you just are. 10-2 gets in the playoff. If you go 2-3 in those games, and you're cutting it close a little bit, because did you beat the best teams on your schedule? And the answer is probably no. I can see 9-3. I can see 10-2. I can see everything above that. I don't think this is a team they're going to face challenges against Kentucky, against Mississippi State on the road, and against teams like, Vanderbilt and even, Arkansas coming to town. But those are games they should take care of business in. And then, of course, the non-conference outside of Ohio State should pose no threat at all. So those are the 5 games I think that decide the schedule. And if you, take care of business in the other games and go 3-2 in those other games, you're in the playoff. I don't know if you're in the SEC championship. It just depends again on whether it's Ohio State or, whether your 3 wins are like Georgia, Florida, Oklahoma, and then you lose to Texas A&M and, well, I guess Ohio State. But, if you're one of your 2 losses is in conference play as opposed to both your losses, and then you're going to the SEC title, and they're not going to leave an SEC championship contending team out. So I see, and I know like Vegas has often been, I think it's like 9.5. That's the right number. But I see 10-2 more than I see 9-3, and more than I see 11 also.
All right. Well, I'm so excited. I can't wait for the season to start. You were super knowledgeable, Joe. It was so fun. I feel like we're knowledgeable, but you brought us to another level. So I'm ready for this season.
No, this was a lot of fun. I'm glad to been on here with y'all.
Yeah. I know you'll have to come back. Yeah, it would be fun.
Well, what fall ball's not too far away, right? So
I know. We're always here for all of it. Except for, I don't know, I used to get into basketball. We'll give that up to Kasey's husband, Barnabas, with a barbecue chicken Twitter account that he's trying to get started.
I'll be in a lot of it.
Yeah.
I appreciate y'all a ton.
Yeah, that's what's so fun, Joe. Okay, well, you got to. Yeah, have fun at Ohio State. I can't wait to hear how you experience it as an adult, because that is wild. What a different.
I'll bring my flip phone with me.
Yeah, love it. I know. Is your family going or just you?
Just me and a couple coworkers. So I think my parents don't want to get involved in that fight again.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I can't wait to hear what you think when you go up there as an adult and see what kind of experience it is. And see if they are pretty calm. We'll see how those Buckeyes respond. We'll see. Who knows?
Fingers crossed.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was so fun. Thank you, Joe, so much. We'll be in touch. So fun.
Man, thank you.
So again, huge thanks to Joe for joining us, and for the rest of y'all, we'll see you in left field.
See you in left field.
See you in left field. DKR style soon enough.